Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the September strategy session. Very happy that everyone is tuning in. We're going to go ahead and get started right away so we can make the most of our time. Lots to discuss. If you have, perfect, we have our presenters that are here, and I'll go ahead and open up, and I will like to open up with an announcement that I want you to check your email boxes for First Repair's symposium announcement and invitation. Registration is live, and I'll jump right into First Repair announcements. We are excited to do a few new things. One of them is we want to make sure that we are not missing any opportunities to present workshops or have presenters that you all want to hear from or topics that you want to hear. So we have included an RFP for sessions. And so those sessions could be 1 hour, or it could be a power talk, a TED style talk for 7 minutes. But there is an RFP that's available for that. The symposium is at the Hilton Orrington, as usual, downtown Evanston. We've also given everyone back their weekend. So now the symposium will be Wednesday through Friday instead of going into that Saturday. We have also decided that our awards dinner will be more of a moment, and we're going to make it semi-formal or formal. Please look at the invitation to see where the team landed on that. And we are excited that we're going to be able to launch and unveil the Resource Center that you all informed last year at the symposium with the design and visioning session with Defining for Humanity. So the Resource Center, as you know, has a mural now that wraps the entire building, and we're still working very hard to get the interior as well as the programming ready. And so at the symposium, we will announce the programming that will be available to the community, the reparations community at large, so the national movement, and then some special local programming as well. And so normally we wouldn't have any Q&A at this time, but Virginia and her colleagues are unavailable, so we won't have any updates from ICTJ, but I would like to see if there are any questions specifically regarding the symposium at this time. You can unmute yourself if you have any questions. Perfect. Seeing that there are no questions, I would like to move on. I don't know if Linda has made it in with any updates from Redress Network. If not, we do see that Professor Hansford is here. And then next we will have Cam Howard from Reparations United.
I actually am on, and I'll just put an image. Hi, Robin. Good afternoon, everyone. I put an image into the chat for everybody, just to let you know that Africatown is having their 3rd annual Lantern Walk. I know that some of you joined last year. Jamoke, you were there, and some other members. So I just wanted to raise that up, that the 3rd annual is happening. And then I will let Professor Hansford speak. We've been working on DC and have had some interesting engagements with College Park and Lakeland that have been challenging. So, but we continue to engage with communities. Oh, Brown Grove actually has some additional funding that came along to do an exhibit on their history, and they are continuing to do water and air monitoring for the community, hopefully to secure clean air and clean water. So those are just updates as far as in the field.
Awesome. Professor Hansford, do you have anything to add?
Well, there are 2 other projects in the DC area that we have worked on. One is supporting the forthcoming Reparations Commission in Washington, DC. Some of you may have followed that. There is anticipation that that bill will pass, introduced by City Councilman Kenyon McDuffie. We've been working behind the scenes to help ensure that the bill is drafted in a way that will survive any legal challenges. And we've also worked with a law firm here in Washington, D.C. that's helping us on a pro bono basis to do that and also look at some of the history. And I want to note that in particular because if that bill is introduced, when that bill is introduced, because Washington, D.C. does not have statehood, the bill, in other words, Washington, D.C. is still under congressional oversight to some degree. The bill could be challenged by Congress, meaning that the issue of municipal reparations could be put for debate before Congress. And if so, then Congress could vote on whether or not to overturn the bill. Again, the DC City Council is in support of it, so it's likely to pass unanimously in the city. But Congress could overturn that bill, and then President Biden could overturn that overturning, perhaps. So those are things that are forthcoming to watch. We also had another project that we are working on in College Park, Maryland, in a neighborhood called Lakeland, and a predominantly African-American neighborhood called Lakeland. And we've been working with the city. In that case, we had responded to a RFP from the city to do some of the similar types of work that we've been able to do in DC for pro bono. So we also have some students engaged in that research, working on some legal analysis, and also getting oral histories from some of the citizens to help them navigate ways to be more effective in their public advocacy around the work there. So those are the updates. We've had some roadblocks in the Lakeland situation, but I don't want to go into those details. But ultimately, I think that we'll also be able to contribute there as well.
Awesome. Thank you for Professor Hansford. And then we have Dr. Akinyele. I see you put your hand down. Did you get your question answered?
Yes, Justin answered it. Oh, excuse me, Linda answered it, but I had another one from what Justin said. Was there a way for us to be alerted if the DC piece goes before Congress in case we need to lobby our representatives?
Yes, that is something you will be alerted to. And I anticipate when the bill passes, there'll be a lot of news and discussion around it. The bill is scheduled to be introduced in November.
Okay.
After the election, which is strategic on behalf of the council to try to avoid having this take place during the election.
Yeah, thanks to Linda and you, Professor Hansford.
Awesome, thank you. And we have, if Cam joins, then we'll make sure that Cam joins at the end to give any updates for Reparations United. But we're going to jump right into our regional reports. We have at least the South and the Midwest is here. Jean-Pierre is unable to make it, and we'll make sure that we email out the written report that he has prepared for the East. And Linda or anyone else from the West, if you want to be prepared to have short remarks. This is a space for you to have more of your questions answered in the regional meetings. They are monthly. Please do, if you do not know when your region meets, reach out to Bailey at firstrepair.org to find out your meeting time. And you can have more of a working session since we have very limited time here. I'll just give a quick report on Evanston specifically because there's been a lot of questions around the lawsuit, and that's why we have invited Professor Hansford and Jessica and Mitchell to give us sort of a report on exactly what is happening with the lawsuit and what our path forward is. And as the Reparations Committee chairwoman, I'll tell you that the city of Evanston has been incredible, unwavering. The law department is all in. There is an outside, very high power legal team, Jenner and Block. You can learn more about Jenner and Block. They're providing pro bono outside counsel for the city of Evanston. The city of Evanston, the Justice Watch did provide their response to the courts, and the city of Evanston has a next step to take. But I want you to know, as a resident of Evanston, a reparations eligible resident of Evanston, that reparations continues to be dispersed. It has not stalled or scared our city at all. The benefits continue to go out. We have dispersed over $5 million. That number changes every week because the benefits are going out pretty much on a rolling basis. We will disperse 80 additional direct descendants this year. We're over 70 now. I think last I saw we were at 71. And then we will pick up with the balance of the remaining 454 direct descendants that will receive reparation benefits from the city of Evanston. Another quick update is that Evanston is looking at additional forms of repair, different opportunities for redress, and more to come on that in early 2025. But right now, our application is closed, and the city of Evanston is working through the disbursements based on the original program. And with that, I would like to pass it to Brother Jamoke to give any updates on the South. And then next we'll have Jeff Trask to give Midwest updates. And if you could keep it to 3 minutes or less. Jamoke?
Yes. All right, and greetings, everyone. So today I found out that DC, Maryland, and Delaware in the South. So good to learn that. The actual defined territory of the South region. Harris Neck in Georgia has a reporter from the New York Times to come, and they're expecting a very lengthy, thorough article from that engagement. The Darlene Robinson has a proposal to get the Freedmen's Village recognized in the Visitor's Guide. And D. Carter made a proposal to the Board of Supervisors on how the cemetery, family cemetery that they've been working with, will be managed by the Board of Supervisors. And an announcement is that there is a film that's being released called The Acts of Reparations, a documentary that focuses on Monroe, Louisiana, and Greensboro, Georgia. It'll be shown on Friday, September 27th at 6:30 p.m. in Monroe, Louisiana, and October 5th in Greensboro, Georgia. And then there'll be other dates forthcoming. And that is our report from the South.
Thank you, Jamoke. And could you let everyone know when the South meets?
Yes, the South meets on the third Tuesday of each month at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Awesome. Thank you. And I want to introduce a new face, not new to the movement, actually, State of Illinois Reparations Task Force Commissioner, also professor and many other things. You'll get to know him more as the time goes on. But Jeff Trask, if you could please give us a Midwest report.
Sure. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Few things at the Midwest I want to highlight really quickly. I sent a link for a event that the Kansas City folks are putting on. Is actually to, I'm sorry, St. Louis. It's actually to, no, it is Kansas City, I'm sorry. It's to look at Black towns, free towns, and communities that were, Black folks kind of escaped slavery, escaped to different parts of the country, started these towns up, and this is history of, what happened to those towns, what happened to those communities. And so I think it sounds really interesting. I put the meeting link for that in the chat there for you. It's open, it'll be online, it's open to anybody that wants to attend that. Also, we have representatives from Kansas City, Wichita, Kansas, Detroit, St. Paul, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Evanston, Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, Denver, Colorado, and St. Louis. So we had a good group. Robin gave the updates for Evanston. Although one thing, I don't know if you're going to mention it later, but you mentioned a cohort model that we want to start up next year. So that'd be something that we're looking into doing to, be able to help develop leadership and have more folks involved to working together with the reparations movement there. But then Detroit has their report, their task force field, and they're going to be submitting a report to the city there. So that's exciting for them. They got all their task force seats full. As far as St. Louis, got a couple of things going in St. Louis University. They assigned a couple of people to communicate with the descendants of some of the history they had with the St. Louis University. They're going to be addressing this 10-point plan to the Board of Trustees that they put together there. And then St. Louis Reparations Coalition, their last meeting will be September 30th. They're going to be submitting their report to wrap things up, and they hope that work will continue after the report is submitted and things go from there. And I think those are all my updates for everyone.
Thank you. I think we missed Wichita being present. I think that's what I'm saying in the chat.
We have any questions to the reports?
We generally don't, but we have a couple more minutes since ITCJ didn't report. So
I just wanted to ask Professor Trash, when is that meeting about the disappearance of Black towns?
Yeah, that's September 30th, 6 p.m.
Oh, thank you.
Is Wichita not? I thought Wichita had had a report. No, a report.
Let's see, they had a thank you to go out to Janae Relaford for attending their event, and they're submitting an ordinance to the city council.
Resubmitting an ordinance because we pulled it back. Okay, thank you.
So that's 6 p.m. Central Time?
We're in Central, yeah, so I would imagine.
Okay, yeah, y'all be killing me with the Central Time.
Right.
I signed up for this meeting last.
Good clarification.
Prophet, if you want to
Baba
add
AK, you just need to respect the Central Time. Stolen here.
Now you over there, I feel.
Yes. Jackson is Central Time too, right?
I know, that's right. That's the Holy Land.
Perfect. And then Prophet, if you want to add anything in the chat in terms of, how folks might show up or anything else, please feel free to do so. Also look for a newsletter to come out probably the end of next week, and we will make sure that if the dates haven't passed, that we share this information will be in our newsletter as well, along with much other very useful information. So one thing that I didn't say in reporting from First Repair is the movement has not slowed down. We still are hearing from cities everywhere. I'm loving that more cities in the South are reaching out. And so we have some cities through Arkansas and other places that we really have not had any activity. And they are ready to call the question and, introduce legislation and all of that. And so we've been assisting. And then the Midwest continues to be, from what we're seeing, the most active region in terms of developing proposals and presenting them for action, and ally organizations. The interfaith community still is doing great work sort of broadly supporting the movement. So I wanted to state that there's too much activity to report on from the engagement that we're getting directly from movement leaders. And it's important now that we get to this matter, because what I am also hearing from communities that we're already working with are those that are beginning to discuss this with their cities and their law departments, that the lawsuits, both the DEI lawsuits with Fearless Fund, the Evanston lawsuit, the anti-local reparations legislations in Tennessee and Florida and Texas, and all of the other attempts to suppress democracy and certainly stop repair for Black people is causing alarm and excuse in some cases, in my opinion, for other communities. And so they're saying, well, let's wait and see what happens with Evanston lawsuit or the Fearless Fund, or just tabling it all together. We can't do reparations work. And so I thought it was important that we had Professor Hansford here who was key in supporting our law department at the City of Evanston, along with Attorney Nick Cummings, in developing a constitutional legal framework that we could implement. It's viable. We feel very confident. And then secondly, we're going to have Jam, who is an incredible communications strategist and specialist. Both of them, their resumes are really too long to read, and I believe that you know them from the movement, but please do follow them at their websites and on social so that you can learn more about each of them and be in partnership with them if you're not already. So Professor Hansford, we're going to ask that you go up first and just give 10 minutes of explanation on what's happening with the Evanston lawsuit and your position as a legal expert on how we continue moving forward with the work broadly, not for Evanston.
Great. All right. Thanks. And I think that Jam may also have more information. There was an update meeting yesterday that I was not able to attend because I was teaching class. But thank you all for taking this aside 10 minutes for me to just chat about this issue. The issues are exactly as Robin described. Now, I have one of the things just as an aside, one of the things that I'm hoping that will take place will be a attempt to convene some of these municipal attorneys in the near future so that we can have an open discussion with them about the truth behind these lawsuits and efforts to intimidate the movement, because that's exactly what they are. They are intimidation tactics. And the lawsuits have been very successful from a public relations standpoint, but much less successful than you may think from a actual legal standpoint in terms of their ability to interfere with the movement's progress. So I'm hoping that if you are in contact with the attorneys in your municipality, alert them that soon we're seeking to put together materials and create a convening of those municipal attorneys so that they can learn the truth about where the law stands. And the law, just one thing I want to emphasize, the law around reparations continues to be viable. Reparations continues to be viable under the Constitution as it stands. What happened over the course of the past year, beginning with the major lawsuit that many of you followed involving Students for Fair Admissions in the U.S. Supreme Court, was a rollback on the constitutionality under the 14th Amendment of creating programs designed to promote diversity on the argument that diversity is a compelling state interest. But your reparations programs are not designed to create diversity on the grounds that diversity is a compelling state interest. Your reparations programs are designed to provide specific remedies for specific harms that were done by these governments, these state, local governments, in addition to other actors. So that's the first thing I want to say. Those are two completely different bodies of jurisprudence, and we have to keep them separate. The effort to conflate those two is the effort of the opponents of the movement to take a win from this camp and expand that win to come over to the reparations side. But they did get a win on the diversity issue, and now they're trying to expand that over to the reparations issue. But the reality is, what we should actually be doing is the complete opposite. We should be taking our reparations concepts and expanding that over to explain to people that if you can demonstrate specific past harm in these institutions, that harm can justify diversity efforts on a reparative justification, not a diversity-based motive, but a reparative-based motive, right? So in actuality, not only are we not going to allow them to take their win over here and bring it to us, we're going to take our wins and bring it to them. So that's just a general overview and framework of what my thinking on the issue. In terms of some of the specifics around what has taken place in the Evanston case, along with the other things that Robin said. We'll focus on Evanston. We know that the lawsuit came from Judicial Watch, earlier this past summer, and the argument made, it was in May, and the argument made was essentially that the Evanston program was unconstitutional because it was using race as a requirement of eligibility. And that's what they continue to argue in their documents, that using race as an eligibility requirement is, according to them, unconstitutional because it's based on this concept, which they say is wrong, that you can use race as a racial, the ending of racial discrimination, specifically on a societal level, as a compelling government interest. All right, this is some of the 14th Amendment jurisprudence. But the key fact here that makes their argument wrong, which is something that I always emphasize anytime I chat with local advocates, is that the Supreme Court has tried to limit and really stop efforts to create racial justice based on broader societal harms being proven, and the history of broader societal injustice. However, when you have a very specific, detailed analysis that ties specific agencies in your government, the Department of Education, the Department of Taxation, the department, the mayor's office, when you have very specific actions that speak to segregation, for example, housing segregation in terms of participating in redline, what they did in Evanston, participating in redlining, excuse me, in terms of what they did in Evanston. When you have those very specific pieces of evidence, then you're no longer in the field of broader societal discrimination. You are alleging specific harms and creating the possibility of specific remedies to match and respond to and to remedy those particular harms. So the Evanston case remains the prime example of a good plan that is constitutional, because they showed the city's involvement and complicity in redlining, and now they have a remedy that speaks to providing housing and other types of remedies that speak to the same problem that the government created. This could also involve if the city's Department of Education had particular acts that they could document, you could have education-based remedies. If you had particular acts that you can document in terms of criminal justice, you can have criminal justice-based remedies, right? So that connection is what we call narrowly tailored remedy. That connection is the key to being constitutional. And that's remained the same. So, I think that the Evanston case is going to be a help to us as opposed to a harm, because I do believe that Evanston will be able to endure this legal challenge. I know that there has been a couple of filings that have happened in the past couple of weeks. Jam and Robin, I know you may have more updated information than I do on some of those most recent filings, and I saw some of the documents recently. The attorneys that are defending Evanston seem to be doing a really diligent legal representation, and they are talking to movement lawyers. They are talking to myself and Ajua Adetoro and Maynard Henry, some of the lawyers in the reparations movement who have been doing this for many, many years, longer than I have. and they're in communication with us. And that's one of the things that's encouraging to me, because that shows that we're all on one accord. What will be important, however, is for us to get the message out to the people somehow, some way, that reparations has not been found to be illegal. That is false. And the plaintiffs, the organization Judicial Watch that is challenging Fearless Fund and Evanston and all of these other challenges, they have a highly funded public relations effort that has done an excellent job in getting the word out, really in a way that, as I said earlier, goes far beyond their competence in getting their lawsuits to a stage where they're winning lawsuits. So they've done a great job in scaring your attorneys at your municipalities and scaring members of the community. And I'm hoping that we can find a way to respond to that. And I know Jan will go into more details regarding that communication strategy, because the reality of the situation remains the same. These lawsuits did not change the law. These lawsuits did not change the law. The Supreme Court has never ruled that reparations is unconstitutional. It never has done that. And these questions around whether or not the Evanston program is constitutional, they're speaking, even the lawsuits that they filed, which I don't think are going to win, the opponents of reparations, the lawsuits they filed, which I don't think they're going to win, they actually hinge on these questions around, whether the program right now is still open for applications, and whether the program was making race and eligibility requirement, when of course the reality was the true requirement was to be harmed by redlining in Evanston. And I'm happy to take questions on some of these issues if folks have more questions, but I just want the main headline to be that it's really the messaging of the lawsuits that is harming the movement more so than the lawsuits themselves. So that's why I'm so happy that JAM is going to provide more strategy around that messaging and how we can provide a counter narrative to the Judicial Watch narrative that they're putting out there, which seems to imply that you can create a conflation, that the ending of affirmative action on diversity grounds also by necessity spells the ending of reparations. That is false. Those are two completely different programs that have different legal justifications. And again, historically, I think affirmative action was meant to repair past harms, but over the course of the 20th centuries, with the Bakke case, Bakke versus University of California in the 1970s, over time, diversity was the rationale for affirmative action. Affirmative action was done to create diversity. That's why many people who were beneficiaries of affirmative action outside of the African-American community could be people who never experienced a particular harm from that institution in the past, right? This is totally different. These programs around repair are only designed for those who experience the harms that these institutions visited upon their communities in the past. So that's a totally different program, and that we should make sure we identify it as such. So
thank you,
that's
Professor.
helpful. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. No, that's very helpful. And then let's save questions until after Jam's presentation, because she may answer some of the questions, and then we'll have Q&A after Jam. Thank you, Jam.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for having me today. So one of the things that we did in response to the Judicial Watch's lawsuit and the attacks on Evanston was to convene a group of lawyers, movement lawyers, and a group of activists, thought leaders, and communicators. And first we were operating as kind of like two groups, but we merged them together. Where we can, and we also expanded it so that this is more than about Evanston, it's about the overall movement. We're viewing this attack on Evanston as an attack on the overall reparations movement, because that's what it truly represents and what it is for. And Justin is totally right about Judicial Watch's goal. Their goal is to not only block reparations, but to control the narrative. And their narrative is that their goal is to make reparations appear unfair and discriminatory, and also to continue to link reparations to the past, as if the past is not connected to today. And so I wanted to show you all just how they operate. So I'm going to share a video, and hopefully I can pull it up with not too many issues. I'm a millennial, so this shouldn't be that hard for me, but here we are. Let me see if I can pull it up. And okay, I need to share sound. All right, do you all see my screen?
Yes.
All right, so this is an interview on the conservative news station Newsmax, and this is Judicial Watch. And these are the types of interviews that they give about their lawsuit in Evanston. Please pay attention to what they say and what they don't say, because this goes right back to what Professor Hansford was saying about the narrative that they're trying to spin, and then I'll go into our counter narrative.
The Civil War ended in 1865.
Can you hear?
Do the math.
Yes.
159 years ago. Joe Biden was only a kid then. And yet the Perpetual Grievance Society, aka the progressive left, is acting as if we all just put down our muskets. The city of Evanston, Illinois, just north of Chicago on Lake Michigan and home to Northwestern University, became the first city to offer reparations to black residents. Judicial Watch filed a lawsuit, glad they did. Tom Fitton is the president of Judicial Watch, and he is with us now. So, Tom, how did Evanston set this up, by the way? Is being black the only qualifier to getting reparations from the city? What do they get? I mean, how's this working?
Yeah, it's the essential qualifier. It's supposedly for the descendants. Generally speaking, the big issue is it's limited to the descendants of people who lived in Evanston between 1919, I think, and 1969. And if you're a descendant, you can get the $25,000, but only if you're black. So it explicitly excludes people on the basis of race for these taxpayer finance payments. And that's why we filed a class action lawsuit on behalf of our plaintiffs, our clients here, to try to put a stop to this.
So about 16% of the city's residents are black, which means the other 84% of the population, unless they identify as black, which of course they can do in today's crazy world, they're going to be penalized for no reason. So again, the federal class action lawsuit, take me through it. You know, what are the main characteristics of this lawsuit?
Well, you can't discriminate on the basis of race. It's a really simple idea. It's under the 14th Amendment, equal protection of the law. There's a federal civil rights law that vindicates that 14th Amendment under which we're suing. And our clients are eligible for the payments, and they're being told no because of the color of their skin. And there's no good reason to do that. You just can't say, oh, you know, things were bad in the past, and that's an excuse to engage in race discrimination now. The Supreme Court obviously has rejected that, most recently up in the Harvard admissions case. Plus, the Constitution makes it clear everyone deserves equal protection of the law. The way to end racial discrimination is to stop racial discrimination. And, you know, to me, this is kind of an ideological ploy, you know, using racialism, really, to redistribute wealth according to their ideological likes and dislikes. And in this case, they don't like the idea of white privilege or whatever language they like to use. And so they want to exclude and punish white residents or people who are eligible for these payments in Evanston just simply because of their color of skin. And I thought, you know, we were over that, right? Aren't we supposed to be over that, where we're against race discrimination? We're against racial separatism and segregation. The left is embracing that. And what's remarkable is, like, it's a group like Judicial Watch that has become the #1 civil rights organization in the country because we're pushing back on the left's attempts to blow up the 14th Amendment, to blow up our federal civil rights statutes that enforce the 14th Amendment, and just try to discriminate 6 ways to Sunday, not just based on race, but also based on sex. In California, they had quota mandates for boards of directors based on race, sex, and LGBTQ status. We sued and beat those race quotas, gender quotas back. I mean, they're attacking our non-discrimination legal structure here in the United States. And of course, the core to all of that is the 14th Amendment. So it's really not unconstitutional, it's anti-constitutional.
So who or what's next in like the reparations handout line if this is allowed by the courts for some stupid reason? But there are a bunch of other cities and states that are considering reparations.
There are. There's California obviously is looking at it more closely, and I'm not sure where they are in the process, but the left wing in California has this as a priority. And this is why this case is so important. The left is very concerned that we're going to expose them for what they are, which are abusers of the law and those who want to engage in race discrimination under the guise of rectifying past wrongs.
Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch, we will watch this one. It's an important one. It's got a lot of ramifications. So good luck in this lawsuit.
Okay, so I know it's a little bit long, but I wanted you to see that the #1 thing that they don't say, they never say in the entire video, and this is a part of their narrative, they never talk about housing discrimination. They never talk about housing discrimination at all. They never talk about their clients, who these people are and why they would be eligible, besides the fact that they're white. And they are framing reparations not as a repair for housing discrimination, which they never mention, but they're framing it as punishment for past harms and punishment to white people, also framing it as anti-constitutional. But these are the types of things that they are pushing. You would think that it would stay on Newsmax, but when they present their lawsuit and they are interviewed by larger or maybe in the middle publications, oftentimes they don't seriously interrogate the narratives that places like Judicial Watch is pushing. And so they end up repeating some of it, uplifting the whole, this is about race, and not acknowledging the housing discrimination and the specificity of the harms. They're framing this as a part of their Stop Woke campaign. And so one of the things with what our group is working on, the group of movement lawyers and communicators, is, for one, I view this as an opportunity to educate the public about reparations and what they really are while there's all eyes on this story. And so with all of the falsehoods that they're putting out, with them specifically ignoring housing discrimination, this is the opportunity to uplift and talk more about housing discrimination, but also talk more about what reparations are in terms of 3 eras of harm: chattel slavery and Jim Crow and modern day systemic racism. So that is one of the opportunities that we could be utilizing in our communications. Their goal is to intimidate the movement and increase the hope gap. So they're not just targeting, when they do this media, they're not just targeting white people to get them upset about reparations. They are also trying to discourage Black communities from seeking reparations and discourage supporters from within Black communities. And so what we have to do is show the evidence and show the fact that the movement is growing, which is why groups like Judicial Watch are trying to stop that momentum and let people know that this is possible. So we have a dynamic group of lawyers, activists, and scholars. We came up with an internal communications document that has a number of agreed upon language and narratives to use in defense of Evanston. First Repair and NBC I Trust also worked with Liberation Ventures on a set of communications talking points for the overall movement. I'm not sure how far and wide they shared that, but they did share it openly within the movement, and I can see if we could share it with others within this group as well. But part of the strategy is educating the public about reparations, connecting the dots on the harms concerning housing discrimination and what the Evanston program is really about, repairing that harm, connecting with Black news outlets, doing general reporter outreach. And one of the things that we also did was put out a statement by the movement lawyers in defense of Evanston. It also touched on Tulsa and the overall movement for reparations. And that statement details the legal strategies and the basically the legal support for advancing reparations forward. And that was put out about a month and a half ago. I'm trying to go through my notes so I don't forget anything. Right now, we're kind of on standby in terms of specific to Evanston, but we have a group of activists and lawyers that are ready to write op-eds, letters to the editor, and be available for interviews if needed. We kind of took a pause for a minute on pushing communications out because we wanted to make sure that we were aligned with the legal strategy and the lawyers at the time. But we are still prepared to advance communications forward, and especially uplifting the harm of Jim Crow and housing discrimination, and also utilizing the hope and the dreams of Martin Luther King and the things that he was working on before he passed away, and connecting those dots to the reparations movement as well. Another part of the strategy is to let the public know about who Judicial Watch really is, a racist racist right-wing conservative organization targeting progressive initiatives to help heal and repair marginalized communities. It's also important within this communications strategy to uplift that there is a difference between, even though all of them are being attacked, there are differences between affirmative action, DEI, and reparations meant to repair specific harms. And so that is also a part of the strategy, telling that story in a robust way, uplifting Evanston's city report that found that the city's 1919 ordinance zoned almost every block where Black people lived in commercial use. These are things that they're avoiding talking about. They're making it seem as if this is just checks that you're handing out to Black people, but they're not talking about the specific harms that were done and sanctioned by the government. And this is our opportunity to uplift that story. Another part of the narrative that is important to be uplifted is that this is not abnormal to pay reparations. The United States government has paid reparations to harmed communities before. So this is not something new, and it's not something unconstitutional. The government has compensated communities that are harmed. So again, it's very important to uplift these aspects of the narrative. Part of the strategy is getting our stories out there through any means that we can, be that through op-eds, letters to the editor, talking points that we share within the movement, and press releases and or sign-on letters. Finally, another aspect of this is uplifting the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, which they did address in the video, but they're twisting it. These were things that were meant to repair harms that they're now turning against Black communities to now call us discriminatory for trying to repair harms. Okay, I see some of the comments, but I'll come back to those. So there was a very important article that was put out by Cam Howard in the very beginning in defense of Evanston that was shared multiple times and referenced many times in leading media outlets like the Chicago Tribune. Robin was interviewed on CNN. We have the statement from the Movement Lawyers Group in defense of Evanston and the movement for reparations that has been circulated widely. And so this is an ongoing effort. It's a living effort. And also their Judicial Watch last Monday, I believe, submitted their response to the motion to dismiss. And so Justin, Nikichi, and Audra, I believe, drafted 2 responses. There's a response in case the courts adhere to the motion to dismiss, and then there's a response in case they don't. And so we're prepared. And then once we hear from the courts, which I'm not sure exactly when that will happen, but once we do, we'll be pushing those that statement out through our networks and to Black media and the wider media as a whole.
Awesome. Jam, thank you. I want to just leave some time for questions. I'm sure there are some. If you can just unmute yourself and go ahead with your question. Or comment. Saw some recommendations in the chat that will be making note of and sharing with the group, Jam, at our next meeting in terms of strategy recommendations. Thank you all for those. Kathleen?
Yes, I was just thinking about this interview that we just witnessed, and thinking that it could be identified as a contemporary example of the harms inflicted by white Americans against Black Americans, stating the history and ending with this particular episode, that this is just a contemporary version of white supremacy's harm against African-American citizens in the United States and in Evanston particularly.
Indeed. Thank you, Kathleen. Is there any other comment or question?
Yeah, I would like to piggyback on that thought. You know, I've seen these videos where people will take something that somebody says and then give their commentary, like stop the video, say da 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 da, this is not true, this is not, and then go play a little bit more, like look at this is ridiculous, da 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 da. So maybe there might be a thought to take that video and actually do that, like make our own commentary or whatever they call it, clapback to that video as a suggestion.
I love it. I love that. And Jam does those already. So Jam, I know.
I do some
I know
stuff
we're
on
giving you a lot of
TikTok,
work.
but yeah, I think that those can be helpful as well. But I think those are helpful because you need multiple mediums, because there's people that watch videos and then there's people that read and there's people that are in between. And I think it's also helpful to, when they're in their bubble. Newsmax is a specific bubble. There's no use in even writing an op-ed or whatever, or letter to the editor at Newsmax. But when there are, when this type of stuff is kind of magnified, like on the Washington Post or even in local Evanston media, where they sometimes they just don't know any better, so they mistakenly mimic the language of the plaintiffs, and it can be harmful, then that is a way that we could kind of write them back to, hey, can you correct this? Or write our own letter to the editor to make a correction on this is not accurate. This is not solely racial. There were harms that were racialized. There's a difference in that. We're not just handing out Black people checks just for being Black. This is repair for a harm, a specific harm that was done. But yeah, I do think that that would be a good way to clarify things. But I doubt it would reach the same audience, and that's the issue there.
To add on, another thing that came up in our Midwest meeting is we're not utilizing our local papers enough, our local publications where you have easy access to the reporters and they're looking for a local story. And so in the Midwest region, I shared, or will be sharing, I don't know if it was shared, an op-ed workshop, like writing workshop. So if anyone is interested in that, I'll make sure that each of the regional leaders have access to that link. It's virtual. And it could be a good opportunity if you're interested in beginning to send op-eds to your local papers. Aziza?
Hi, thank you for the space as usual. My question, Jam, you mentioned following the teachings of late Dr. Martin Luther King in the work moving forward. Is there any plan for security or threat of security? Because isn't that what actually got him assassinated?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure about the security thing. I'm not for specific people or the movement overall.
Plan for the movement overall, because a lot of, like, grassroots leaders are like experiencing things that they can't protect themselves from. So as we, continue to push forward and get more radical, like, is there a plan for security?
I mean, I think that's a good conversation to be had. I don't think that we've actually had that conversation, though, to be honest. We have had certain conversations about protections in digital spaces, because like I know that Robin has had some issues feeling needing to be protected. I know that I've been attacked online, like I'm constantly under attack, but not I don't think that we've had like a specific conversation about security. No. But I think it's an important one to be had.
Aziza, follow up with me directly on that, because every time it comes up, we move on to something else, and we haven't had a serious conversation like Jam said. And so I don't want this to be a missed opportunity. So we're even thinking about our symposium and security there, because it is becoming more of an attack. But please reach out to me directly, Aziza, if you have the capacity to. I appreciate it. We're going to take one more question. Thank you, Aziza. I think we had Jeff's hand, and then we're actually going to need to close out. I want to just leave space for Cam. If he had a brief announcement, I saw that he was able to join the meeting. Jeff?
Yeah, just real quickly, just want to say thank you. And just watching that video, I think it's important to remember that as those of us who give presentations to mixed crowds or even predominantly white people, that this is the kind of things that they're watching and they're believing. And so I'm really appreciative of the information so that we have the tools to be able to respond to that kind of information that's being spread out there. Thank you.
Every once in a while, just turn on Newsmax, okay, y'all? I know, or Fox News or whatever, just to see what they're saying, because a lot of people are listening to these narratives and not knowing the backstory at all. Okay, yeah, I understand if it's too stressful too. So
Thank you. So thank you, Jam, and thank you, Justin. Please do follow their work. Be in touch. They are informing every step of what we do at First Repair. And then I wanted to make sure that we had a couple closing announcements before Cam closes us out. We have movement events. The Get Free has a movement event on October 24th, a mass movement organizing event. On November 21st, the Black Veterans Project has an event with Richard Brookshire. These will make our newsletter as well. We recommend that we follow all movement partners. And then I saw that Lauren put a Black Roots Alliance event in the chat as well. So I'm already registered for that. Looking forward to being there on October 5th. Please do make sure that we're following, collaborating, and working with one another. And then Cam will have the last word, close out with the Reparations United update, and we will see you all next month, if not sooner, in a regional strategy session.
Thanks, Robin, and greetings, everyone. Unfortunately, I'm not able to come off camera at this time. I'm in the field, but I just wanted to share, in continuation with the Earn the Black Vote campaign, which goal was to get a reparations commission established prior to the election. As we got closer and closer, we felt that was not able to be done. And so we still need to press on during the last months of the Biden administration for the Federal Reparations Commission. And we've created a national federal strategy session to do that, to create a action guidebook on things that can be done around the movement in relationship to the 4 targets that we've identified that can help push this forward. And those 4 targets are, of course, the president. He has the power to establish the Reparations Commission by executive order prior to January the 20th or the 5th, whenever inauguration day is. The second target is the Congressional Black Caucus. They have the power to press the president, and there should be actions directed at the Congressional Black Caucus to do so. And a third target is the Big 8 civil rights organizations. 2 days after Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee's homegoing services, an article came out stating that President Biden had met with these large civil rights organizations, asking him what he should do in regards to his legacy, I guess, within the last 5 months of his presidency. And since he was talking to Black leaders, it's our opinion that he was saying, what does he need to do for Black people in these last 5 months? So they have not collectively pushed for reparations commission. So we'll be looking at actions that we can target toward these Big 8 civil rights organizations. And finally, the 4th target is Kamala Harris. In case Biden does not do it, can we get a confirmation or commitment from her if she wins? Is that something she can do? I know there's action already targeted toward her. So our goal is to have a document that anyone in the movement can utilize individually or collectively to press these targets, to press the president or the the president-elect, if it's Kamala Harris, to move forward with the Federal Reparations Commission. We understand that the process of federal reparations cannot go through Congress, and that has been the statement. We're going to leave it to Congress. According to the laws of the Senate, the filibuster rules of the Senate, no reparations commission would be, a legislation would be passed out of the Senate. So it's always been executive order or bust, and we still have some time, and we still have some power as activists, and we want everyone to register for the strategy session, help us produce this document, and help us circulate the document once it's produced. It's October 11th at 6:30 p.m. and everyone should be receiving information soon, if you're not already received it, in regards to the October 11th federal strategy session on reparations executive order. Thank you, Robin, for the opportunity to share.
Of course, and thank you all. Please, again, any questions about regional meetings, reach out to Bailey at firstrepair.org. You could always reach out to info@firstrepair.org, and I'll see you all very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great one, everybody.